Rahul, we have a hard stop at 11:45, right?
Yes.
Take
Hello, everyone. Welcome all to the day 4 of Misfit Mega Summit. Brook Ecosystem Foundation, as you are aware, is an innovation building a cohesive ecosystem. We facilitate economic geography and also create a platform for different entities which support entrepreneurs to operate under a single umbrella. I'm happy to say that this 12th November we had formally completed 2 years of our existence. Brooks ecosystem was started with the purpose of building an ecosystem for supporting innovators and startups working at grassroots level. We understand that local problem leads local solution, especially applicable in tier 2 and 3 regions, where the opportunities and exposure is quite low comparatively. These regions require a handholding and support to vision development within. That's where Brooks ecosystem wants to make a difference. We have an internal saying in the audience that it's not having the idea, it's always about making them happen. Now, coming to Misfit for what we are here for. We started with this thought right at the peak of pandemic. We came across phenomenal innovators and inventors who were working to ease our journey through a pandemic. We wanted to recognize these individuals and find the most impactful ones out there from the South Asian region. The final mega pitch event is happening between 12th and 22nd November. Rook's ecosystem over the last 3 months have hosted a pitch event series in the South Asia region. The Misfit is focused toward providing a stage to social impact chain makers, be it startup, non-profit, or innovators who are building solution, tech or non-tech, that can improve the quality of life in their region. While we say this is a pitch event, it's not just another pitch event. We ensure there is a community that builds after this entire exercise. The pitch sessions happened virtually in 15 locations across the South Asia region, with each location hosting close to 10 social entrepreneurs, and from which the top two were selected for the mega pitch event that will showcase the top 30 misfits for the regions across. We are thankful to all the partners who have opened arms to support the entrepreneurs, especially GIZ, who came at the last phase of Misfit and enabled us to take Misfit Go in their partner country and given space to our top 30. We are powered by Telugu, which is all-in-one enterprise communication firm, and we are also recognized by Startup India. Our amazing global partners who have helped us at the global level. They supported us with benefits and outreach since the beginning of this initiative. We are very thankful to all our global partners. Next, you see all our regional partners, which was quite unexpected at the beginning of when we started Misfit. We are very to happy to all our regional partners who helped us to execute the regional event so smoothly. We are quite happy to see that these approximately 90 plus partners trusted our initiative and supported us in our journey. They supported us via benefits. Some of the benefits are from Telugu 3000 USD credits for their products and 20% discount for all the participants. ThriFi, who is giving 500 USD Google Crowd credits and 100 USD Crowdera credits with 90% off on their HubSpot Professional. Paytm Built for India, giving their payment gateway and wallet at a zero transaction fee and with complete integration support. Fundwise, who is our seed funding assistant partner, who will be helping deserving startups to get funded. VCAT, SIC, Thinkubate, Estrella Global Ventures are also our seed funding partners. MSG91 is giving $600 messaging credits. Global Shapers, AIC Banastali, and Triple IT Hyderabad are providing mentoring supports to all our winners. Autodesk Fusion 360 is giving 1 year free startup license to whoever to the top 30. Eduvans, all participants get pro license of their B plan tool, which is Anthropedia. Codo is though it's written 30%, it's giving 50% discount for their Codo corporate credit cards. The Startup Buddy is providing premium membership for a span of 2 months on their platform. Eat Launchpad is also providing premium membership on their platform with $5,000 AWS credit. Startup Grind is giving an opportunity to all the top 30 to become premium members of the community. Here is the impact that Misfit has created. We have conducted and we have spread the word of Misfit and got applications from around 20 regions of South Asia. With the help of our 90 plus partner that you have seen earlier, we have received 200 plus applications. From that, we have selected top 30. The whole event took around 252 hours in all, with 14K YouTube reach, 13K Twitter reach, 64K Instagram reach, 78K Facebook reach, and 30K LinkedIn reach. And last, we are also thankful for the brains behind this finale series, Helm of Fate, Makeshift, and GIZ, who are instrumental in designing the experience that all of us are going to share in the next couple of hours. I would now request Anupam to kindly introduce our first panelist. Yes, Anupam.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Mr. Raul. So, hi everyone. I hope I'm audible to you, and I hope you all are doing well. This is Anupam Pandey. I'm into operations at Brooks Misfits. And yes, the biggest benefit of being a part of such event is that you get a chance to meet and greet a lot of industry leaders and change makers. So I'm very thankful to Brooks for providing me with this opportunity. So, hope you all are set for day 4 of Misfits Mega event. So, let's get started with our first panel discussion. And the discussion is on investing in social entrepreneur. So, the first guest for the discussion is Ritin Agrawal, co-founder and director compliance at Fundwise. He is an experienced consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the individual and family services industry. Skilled in internal audit, income tax, management consulting, financial accounting, and Indian taxation. Strong consulting professional with a semi-qualified chartered accountant degree. Focused in accounting and finance, taxation, and law compliances from ICAI. We welcome you, Mr. Ratan. Happy to have you here. So the next guest for the discussion is Mr. Akif Hussain. He is a founding partner at Free Flow. a mentor at Startup India with 6+ years of business and software development experience, plus CAMS. CAMS is Cloud Analytics, Mobility, Security, and Social. He is also a founder at INV and Master Mentors India, a founding partner at Staff Rights Venture with experience in venture building. I welcome this amazing TEDx speaker on behalf of Team Misfits. Mr. Rakib, happy to have you here. Yeah.
Pleasure.
So the moderator for panel one, Mr. Kiran Reddy, managing director at Helm of Eight, which empowers purpose-driven individuals, organizations, and collective across domains to enhance their potential. He is very much passionate about human resource development and enjoys unraveling personal stories of people. Also, volunteer Mumbai chapter director for Startup Grind India. I would now like to hand over the stage to Mr. Kiran. Over to you, Mr. Kiran.
Thank you, Anupam. Thank you, Rahul, Abhijit, and Switch team for working so hard to get this mega event to finally close on what's been a 2 month campaign. And we definitely look forward to the learnings from this exercise and how to make Misfits bigger and better next year. And thank you for the hustle, guys. Thank you, Ritin. Thank you, Akib, for joining us in the middle of a workday and in the middle of a pandemic. You guys, I've had an interaction with y'all, and let me put it out there that you guys are multi-tool. Okay, so anyone who's trying to look at you from a particular investor suit ki ye mere ko check faad ke dega, you're not necessarily directly the people who will be doing that, but the access you have goes beyond just opening a checkbook. So let's open up a little bit about each of you. I would start with Ritin. If you could tell us a little bit about Funwise's work, because what I realized as a common theme between both of you is that you're investing and supporting startups that happen to be social entrepreneurs and not necessarily as an intended design that you are approaching social entrepreneurs only. So a little bit about your philosophy, your mantra. How did you get to where you are?
Yeah, so Kiran, thanks for your words that we have been actually trying to do our best to help the startup community. That's all we have in mind since a very long time. And as we had an interaction yesterday, and we concluded that I don't know, it was a game of destiny or whatever. We stumbled upon the fact that we have a majority of our startups that we have supported or are in the process of raising funds or supporting him in any capacity as possible. They are majorly focused towards social sector. So I won't call them a pure social entrepreneurship companies because they are into the game for the money also. They are not just purely there to just help the community, but their idea generated from the fact that there is a problem in the community that can be solved, that needs to be solved. They are not there just to create a hell lot of reserves in their balance sheets and everything and take an exit or do something like that. They are there that they need to make a sustainable business. And that's what we look into a business. See, I would say that there's a myth in the market that a social entrepreneur or a social startup, something like that, can survive on their own or survive only on the money that they raise. It's not true. They need to be self-sufficient as well because the market, as the corona showed us, and there are a hell lot of factors, the stock market's crashing down, different policies of the government changing, there can be any time a stoppage of investment. So what the companies will do at that point of time? So that's why they need to have a sustainable business model, and that's what we look into. We look at the founders, we look at what their, at the end of the day, how they are going to generate revenue, or how, and at the same time how they are adding a value in any form of factors in the society. So I would say that every startup is kind of a social entrepreneur these days because they are trying to solve a problem itself. So when there
I
is a
can
problem, that's a
I
society
can
problem.
see Akib smiling because that's literally what he told me when we spoke. So on that point, Akib, do you want to step in and speak? a little bit about your fundas and what you've learned on your journey.
Okay. Kiran, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, continuation Ritin was saying, there is no entrepreneurship if there isn't social entrepreneurship. So if you're not if you are not looking out for the concern or the problems of people, then possibly we're not solving a problem strong enough to be called entrepreneurs. So that is essentially fundamental to our understanding of how entrepreneurship kind of works, uh, because if we have not thought it out with regards to a certain sustained issue that can actually be addressed via the models that we are building, then everything else can essentially wait to happen, because the numbers would add up, the teams would get formed, the investments would flow in, and then you will see a cycle wherein you are falling short on actual people paying for your services, platforms, or products. So you essentially miss out on the people context, and that is where we go burst or go unicorn. And then this myth thing that Ritin was very categorically pointing out to give the most successful models on earth are models which have been social and sustainable in their approach of actually addressing the issue, rather than the ones who were meant for short term capital gain and capital management. So it goes without saying, in today's day and age, when we have become so impacted by so many interdisciplinary things around us, that there would be something which would be bereft of a social context. So it is all entrepreneurs are social entrepreneurs, but all social entrepreneurs might not be entrepreneurs. That's the key takeaway that we might possibly coin by the end of this possible discussion. Yeah.
Fair. Thank you, Akib. Thank you, Ritin. I'd like to go into a little bit more pointedness when it comes to our theme, which is raising investment for social entrepreneurs. Now, raising investment itself is something that you go looking to raise money when you don't need it, is one funda that I came across. I would love to hear a little bit from you and derive the wisdom from that caveat. Uh, Ritin or Akib, either of you want to take this up?
So, Ritin, I'll possibly take this up, because to start with, and then have your views on it. Uh, Raising funds has for some odd reason been created as the eventual epitaph that you want to create around your model, because everybody who talks about entrepreneurship in India, especially if these are young people who are talking about it, and when I say young, it is young in their models and not young by their age. Their first context is who would support it financially and who would fluid in or flow in or with the capital, which is kind of flawed in a way that you only raise liabilities by raising an investment, and a very few set of people understand this, that the day you have your equity diluted is the day you become liable to answer for your own venture and answer for your own dreams. For some odd reason, that has kind of become synonymous with the idea of starting a startup, because essentially in the mainstream, that's what gets reported, that's what gets you PR'd, if I may call it. People start taking you seriously if there's a report that gets published about you and your firm getting invested. And unfortunately, people forget that it's a whole cycle that allows you to eventually raise money. It's a very expensive cycle by itself, when you look at the wallet sizes of most of the startups. So what they're missing out on, the point is the focus diversion that it brings in, is the kind of non-essentiality that it has attached to it, because you have so many modules that you connect with it. You have so many things to think of, which you would not have thought of if you would have been running behind a customer first approach rather than an investor first approach. So especially the young, straight out of college innovator, entrepreneur, disruptor, is fascinated by this concept of the fact that, boss, everything let aside, my story should be there on INC 42 and your story, and they should be talking about me because I've raised $500,000 from some XYZ, or $3 million as a Series A. So what has become synonymous is the approach. They've started to take it as a means to an end, rather than thinking that paying customer is their possible best investor. And even for the investor storyline, what suits an investor the best? Matlab, if I have written checks for somebody, or if I have facilitated checks for somebody, the most seamless checks have been the ones wherein I have had a very strong user story to tell, or a very strong customer story to absorb. And that is something that our startups primarily don't focus or value as much as they should. So that is the area that I have a grudge with the ecosystem in a certain way, that we have set the priorities at wrong checkpoints, or misplaced checkpoints, if I may call them. And that is where we might need to tweak it a bit. And people like you, written the Misfits whole initiative is designed in a way that we talk solutions and users first, and then investments will follow. There's enough market money available to be gorged on, not just to be used as venture capital or angel funds. So that's my take on how it works. Ritin, if you could add,
Akib,
or
I would totally agree on the grudge part. I have the same exact problem with the whole ecosystem. See, we have come across hundreds of startups by now. We have talked to hundreds of founders, those who are into. See, we mainly work into. We also support ideation stages and the most early stage startups. We help them. We tell them that okay, it's fine, whatever place you are. Okay, you are not investor ready, but you will be ready in the next. So it's okay. We will help you out throughout till then. So what I have seen and what we have observed and what we have always just asked that please guys, we will not be able to support you, is that the startups that have come to us for the exact same reason. They just want to create, just want to raise funds. They don't know nothing about the business. They don't want to do a business. They are just here with an idea just to raise funds. And what we have observed and what we have seen, the businesses that have been able to generate investors' money are the only ones who are self sufficient. They only needed money for expansion. They never needed money for their survival. They could survive on their own. They could survive on the same parameters and the same growth level as they are doing right now. But if they get funds, they will grow exponentially. Their rate growth from a 10% or a 15% every quarter would shift to a 60, 70, 80% growth rate. And that's what actually the market is for. Investors are required for the exact same thing. They are not required for anything else. As Akib rightly said, that it's a PR stunt for many of the startups. I would say that it's required to become a PR stunt, but only when it's necessary. If you can grow on your own pace, then why do you need an outside liability when you're self-sufficient? Because at the end of the day, those are the people that you would become accountable to rather than the customers. So when the focus shifts from the customers to the investors, to satisfying the investors rather than the customers, then we see, I won't name the companies that have seen that downfall, but then we see the companies falling down that have even become
So,
unicorns because they are more investor oriented than
Ritin,
customer
I'd like to
oriented.
step in here and just like lay a landscape in front of you. And I mean, please correct me if you feel like, there is an addition anywhere. But basically, you have your early stage. So at this point, a startup is at an idea level. The startup is probably got a technical co-founder or some understanding that there is a business opportunity and they want to prototype it. At this stage, the money that is available to them is through their own savings, through friends and family, and potentially grants. I would want us to spend a little bit of time talking about grants, but just for the reference purposes, we're talking about grants and early stage, maybe a seed stage and grants available there. You're talking about incubators, you're talking about not accelerators at this stage, but at least in your view, there is government and private support available for startups. That is where we all have our role to play in the ecosystem, and that's the early stage segment. Once a startup has moving into growth, that is where we are talking about angel investing, venture capital. We are talking about angel investing can come in early stage also, but then we are talking about venture capital and we are talking about growth based solutions for them. So an
Exactly,
accelerator
exactly.
potentially comes in, and an exit is somewhere there for any of the investors along this journey. So we'll start with early stage and then we'll mature to the later segment of the conversation. So at the early stage, when it comes to grants, and Akib, you have some expertise on this subject because I believe you have been working with some government and nodal bodies and the dispersal of such funds. What is this fund? How do you get access to it? How can a startup tap into it? What are the qualification criteria? Any kind of wisdom that you can share by being on the other side of that table would be very helpful.
It's essentially a combination of how ready your prototype or your POC is to how connected is it with a presently existing, if I may call, a development goal or a strategy goal of a startup nodal agency. So the state startup nodal agencies work in very specific tracks. They have these definition tracks every quarter. Some tracks might be focusing on health, some others might be focusing on education, and some others might be just focusing on continued employment generation and stuff like that. Because again, those are run by governments. Those have administrative and bureaucratic answerabilities. So they have aligned a process to it. I won't say it's very seamless, though I work very day in and day out with them. I won't say it's very user friendly yet, but they've tried to get it on platforms, portals. The application process has kind of become one step. You can actually go ahead in most of the states that we convene with, and they include Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat. It includes Jharkhand as a new entrant, Kerala. What they've done is they've reduced the age old red tapeism in the particular vertical in providing for a quick runway for a few selected tracks every quarter or every year or every semester kind of a model. And then what it achieves for them in the long run is a certain number of DPIIT based criteria that are to be supported by the model. So if I run it on a top to bottom mechanism, the Invest India releases a certain number of the Invest India releases a certain number of tracks that are specifically important for that particular quarter. Those quarter tracks are picked up by various companies. Sorry, the various startup nodal agencies. Those tracks are then classified and further checked upon in the existing pool, and support for the same is allowed for via the various companies that are available. And the ones that can be chosen are given a 6 month runway, 6 month runway for the support. Now there are a few governments who have associated with industry associations and the chambers of commerce, which kind of give an initial grant extending between 5 lakh rupees to somewhere as high as 75 lakh rupees, depending on the kind of model. So if you're a hardware based model, it would kind of have a bracket between 37 to 75 lakh rupees, given that your POC passes the number of test modules that they have kept in their quarter study. Similarly, if it's a software model, it could extend between 12 lakh rupees to 25, 28 lakh rupees, depending on which state nodal agency are you interacting with. Basic criteria remain: can you hire 50% of your initial workforce from that particular state? Can you actually generate enough amount of employment in the state? And if you have the possibility of registering in that particular state nodal agencies, because it helps them do the numbers and show better ranking quotients at the end of the year. So a combination of these factors, and most importantly the active tracks that are running with the government, allows for a grant slash professional stipend model, which starts somewhere around 2 lakh rupees, extends up to 1 crore in a few states, and it is at various stages. So there's money to be had. I won't say it's very quick. The turnaround still that the fastest turnaround that I have been able to facilitate has been about 6 weeks with a few governments, and that has been considered jet speed for them. And in other cases, it has taken almost 6 months of activation and paperwork to actually make them ready. So that's what we are also trying to simplify on a certain bit with regards early stage innovation. And generally, what happens is social entrepreneurship kind of falls by the side on these aspects because what they're looking at is something tactile, something that works, shows, and gives an output right away, which is generally an observed pattern in social entrepreneurship and similar such models. So that is where the entrepreneurs have to become smarter. They'll have to become a little more disruptive in showing the results in a more figurative, viewable, touchable model, if contactable model, if I may call it, because that is what these people understand. So that's how it works. Track being broken into state nodal allocations being further segmented into what stage of allocation do you comply with, and what model are you bringing into the game. Is it soft or is it hard?
So
If it's hard,
my summary archive is if anyone wants to access these funds, they reach out to you. Uh,
I am also sending a
nothing better
couple of
than that.
startups to his way after this
Ri-
call.
Right.
Ritin
Pleasure.
vested interests are just caveat for you, Akif. Ritin, a quick question for you. We have a few minutes. We'll have to close our panel, but just to hear from you a little bit about investments to be raised by social entrepreneurs and your thumb rules when it comes to business-ready propositions, team, the entire. What are your due diligence because you have a compliance background as well. How do you evaluate your startups for investment and the likelihood of angel investment at an idea stage or a seed level investment at an idea stage? If you could share a little bit about that.
See, Kiran, I would be very honest with you. See, it's all about when we talk about an ideation stage or early stage investment, it's the first thing that drives the whole game is the gut feeling. See, we as Fundwise have a very simplistic approach. We talk to the founders extensively. We take a couple of calls ourselves as the founding members. We understand the business and we understand the founders, what they are planning to do, what they are thinking of doing. Are they going in the right direction? Can they scale up? Do they have a little bit of knowledge as to how and when they can achieve things? So that's what the first factor that comes into our mind, and that's what the first factor is. Anything else is just book. It's just the book knowledge that people give everyone and make try to make people understand that these are the factors that drive it. The first factor when we talk about an early stage startup is the gut feeling. Then there comes what the founders have done. It's not about just about what qualifications they have or what premier institute they have worked from. Most of the startups that we are supporting, they are not run by IITians or IIMs. I'll be very honest. They are run by people who are driven, who have done n number of things throughout their life. That's it. They are from small institutes, they are from small towns maybe, but they have done tremendous things. They have done internships, they have taken hands-on experience, maybe not in the exact same thing that they have created an idea for, but in whatever they could understand things up to. So that's build up the character, that builds up the potential. See, when we say ideation, early stage, and everything, it's all innovation based. So whatever they are jumping into, it's new. If it had been in the market, why would they have been creating it, and why would an investor give it money? No one would. So it's something new. So when it's new, there is no book that's available in the market that can teach you how to do and what to do. That's the same thing applicable when we go about funding, when we go about entrepreneurship. There is no book. All the books are just opinions of people, are just their point of views. Like me and Akeb are sharing our point of views right now on the various factors. We can be contradicting. We can be a little bit thinking about various factors. Those factors maybe matter to me. They won't. maybe matter to you or to Akib. That's a different story. And that's how we check these startups. And when we talk about the startups to be investor ready or investors would fund it or not, it's all about the psyche of the market and the investors that's going on right now. So what we have an approach on is we understand the business first, then we understand it ourselves. We put in a little bit of time of ours, we understand it, then we discuss it with the angel investors and the advisory board of ours, and we understand that whether the market is ready for it or not, or what else is needed in the business right now. So then we tell that factor to the founders that okay, you may be on from our personal professional opinion, you would need these things to be done to be ready for investment. So some of the startups say, okay, you are right. We will stick to you. We will work on this, and then we will keep you updated, and we will come back to you in the next 3 months, 6 months, or whatever the timelines we decide. Some of them say you don't know stuff. There is market available. Market is ready to put in money. We will be taking our business somewhere else. We are okay with everything because that's how we have seen the market running. It's always about what's the investor thinking. It's about making the right people meet. Investment is purely about that. We have seen founders saying no to even the investors because they couldn't connect. And when they cannot connect, they know that they cannot grow. And we have seen investors coming up that they would put in 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs in the first round. But after meeting the founders, after talking extensively with them, they would end up writing a check for 50 lakhs. That's what have happened recently with us. So that's totally a dynamic game. And it's purely sixth sense, to be honest. Because they are into ideation, they are an early stage startup. No one has put their trust into them. So we or our investors or what people we approach are the first people to put their trust. Because we come up to a lot of funds, a lot of investors who say, you get the first round, then we will put in the money. Because you have actually hedged your risk.
Ritin,
Someone has taken that gut call for you.
Ritin, I think we'll need to do a different hangout to go into the depth of what both of you can offer, and I think this can go on for hours. Hopefully, Misfits will reconvene us and empower us to do so. But in the last 20, 25 minutes, we've covered and at least managed to open up and give startups a window into accessing funds. The aspect we couldn't talk about today was again incubation, acceleration, and then of course angel investing and venture funding. Ritin managed to give us some insights. I don't think the thumb rules change too much. It's about finding the right investor who blends with your business at that particular stage and that moment. And it's kind of like getting married to someone or getting into a relationship with someone very deeply and intimately. At least that's how I view investment and fundraising.
I
And
would totally agree there.
yep. So thank you guys. We will have to close before they pull the plug on us. But it's an absolute delight, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
Abhijit.
Thank you,
And
Kiran. Thank
back
you,
over
Misfits,
to
for
you,
having
Anupam.
us.
Sorry for stretching this call for longer than scheduled.
No problem. Really, wow, what an amazing talk. Thank you, Mr. Rakov and Mr. Ritin, for sharing your thoughts, and thank you, Mr. Kiran, for the moderation part. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Hey Anupam, am I audible?
Yes, yes, yeah. Hi. You're audible. Okay, guys. So the first panel discussion went amazing, and we are moving towards the second panel discussion now. We again have a set of exceptional market leaders So the first guest for the second panel discussion is Mr. Oh Yong. He is a managing director at YM Council Capital, which is an early stage venture capital firm that seeks to provide a full suite of venture building services and has been named an advisor at a fast growing startup. He has directly worked with global head of business development and gained insights on sustainable and proven management systems, coupled with understanding of quality business standards. Team Misfits, welcome you to the event. We are very happy to have you, Mr. Yong. Yeah, so the next guest, hello, yes. So the next guest
Okay,
for the
awesome. So yeah, so shall I start with the questions on social entrepreneurship?
no, Mr. Yong, let me just first introduce all our guests, then we'll start the panel discussion.
Okay.
All right, yeah. Okay, so the next guest for the panel discussion is Mr. On giving entrepreneurs the autonomy and resources to grow. For Thinkubate, it's not about finding the outlier, it's about finding an innovation product that can generate revenue and potentially turn a sustainable profit. I welcome you, Mr. Pranav, to the event. We are very happy to have you.
Thank you, Anupam, for having me. Thanks, Suraj. Thanks, everyone here at Misfits and at Brooks. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, the next guest for the event is Mr. Ravi Ranjan. He is an entrepreneurship evangelist, startup expert, TEDx speaker, and an alumni of the International Visitor Leadership Program. He has over 10 years of experience helping startups, entrepreneurs, and government across India to solve problems using entrepreneurship technology and innovation. He is a regular speaker at top technology and management institutes in India, such as IIT, IIM, NIT, XLRI, Manipal, and MIT. We are very happy to have you here, Mr. Ravi Ranjan. And yes, the moderator for panel second is Mr. Suraj Singh. Mr. Suraj Singh, he is a chartered accountant with 7+ years of experience into auditing, management, and MNCs, private companies, and government organizations. He co-founded Brooks Ecosystem Foundation with the primary aim of building the right startup ecosystem in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities of India. Would like to hand over the stage to you, Mr. Suraj. Over to you.
Thank you, Anupam. Thank you so much. Am I clearly
Yes,
audible?
Yeah,
you're audible.
loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Do we have Ravi on the? Oh, thank you, Pranav. I guess we don't have Ravi on the call now. So, like, we have a one great panelist today. So today we'll be knowing their perspective on social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. So, like Anupam has introduced, we have Pranav from Thinkubate and Yun Mun from joining us from Singapore. I hope everyone is doing well, and I'm really excited to have this discussion with you all and know your perspective. So, my first question would be this is not directly related to social entrepreneurship, but it is more about the entrepreneurs, who found their social startups. So, in this fast growing startup ecosystem where, startups are raising huge funding, uh, entrepreneurs are turning into millionaires, how can social entrepreneurs be grounded and stick to their purpose? Being when they are not doing well, or maybe when they are not able to raise as much fund as other tech startups are doing, how can they stay grounded and stick to their purpose? Can we go ahead
Yeah,
with
happy
Pranav?
to start. I think the question itself is a bit of a misnomer, right? I would like to believe that a lot of social
Yeah.
impact entrepreneurs don't necessarily do it primarily for the outcome of value from a money or for a funding or raising. Fundamentally, you hope and believe that
Yeah.
they're doing it from wanting to solve a problem that they may have come across, a problem that they may have encountered, but something that's driven by more than just
Hmm.
money, right? So there is a bit of a misnomer in staying
Yeah.
grounded,
Yeah.
because I think if you look at the overlap of social impact founders who are focused on raising capital versus social impact founders who are looking to create value, and it's a thing we say Thinkubate very often. When you think of value creation over valuation, that's when exponential wealth creation actually could happen. So when you look at the social impact sector, I think it's no
Yeah.
different. The idea of a social impact founder chasing investor capital in itself, for me, is a misnomer. So yeah, that's maybe just an initial thought.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pranav. Oyang, what's your
Okay, good. So
opinion
I
on that?
think many startups could start off as like having a social purpose, but perhaps they become successful and they move on to more commercial and profitable projects. So we have heard of WeWork's Adam Newman, who is famously known for his extravagant lifestyle and controversial accounting procedures. So I think investors can play their part
Yeah.
in putting a rein on these founders by having certain clauses and just being sure of the founder's lifestyle habits. So that would be an important criteria even before an investment round is concluded. So if a founder is known to be
Yeah.
extravagant or exhibiting conspicuous consumption, so future investors should take note of that criteria and perhaps be hesitant in providing so liberal checks in the next rounds. So investors, yeah.
Yeah. I guess from an investor's point of view, you have made very well points. Ravi, what's your take on that?
First, pleasure to be here, Pranav and Ayong. Now, I have spent a couple of years primarily into the investment sector. I have a little different thought process. I believe any startup which is able to create employability, give a lot of option to all stakeholders, be it their internal or external stakeholders. I consider them as a social startup. I mean, I personally do not believe that you need to brand yourself as a social venture. If you're able to, I'll give you some examples why I believe in that. So we have invested in so far 100 plus startups. There are a couple of very interesting companies. One of them is called Impact Guru. Now, what they do is that it's a crowdfunding platform where they help patients raise crowdfunding for their relatives. Very interesting one,
Yeah.
right? They do not call themselves a social venture. They rather themselves call them a startup which is trying to solve a very, very important problem. They have raised hundreds of crores so far and helped save so many lives. The second example is a company called Rare Planet. What they have done is that they have helped a lot of Bengali artisans to showcase their handcraft products online and offline. And they have now raised a really good round of funding. And the most important part is that they have been able to impact more than 2,000 micro entrepreneurs across these artisan belts across West Bengal. So I have a little different take onto that. I believe that if you're able to, impact people in a very good manner, you can call yourself a social startup. And I believe now a lot of companies, even in which are pure play commercial companies, they are also able to create a lot of impact. And I'm sure
Yeah.
we will see more and more young people looking at these problems and trying to build a solution where at the same time they can both create wealth and also impact people. Suraj.
Yes, truly. I guess we all would agree to that. Like, if you are making an impact in any way, you can be called a social entrepreneur. Truly. So, Ravi, taking this forward, we have a lot of funding, coming in from impact investors. Okay, do we see funding flowing in from any other sources? Let's say maybe crowdfunding or government grants. What are the other sources that you see where impact investing can be made, other than the normal generic impact investors that we
Good
have?
question. I'm sure apart from various funds which are already very active in India, we have a lot of grants available from government sector as well. One of the recent one which I remember is the BIRAC grant. Now that's not totally social impact, but there are various
Yeah.
similar initiatives taken as well as state government, where they are encouraging entrepreneurs to build solutions. And there are similar competition to what Rich is doing right now, where good companies, good startups can raise capital.
Mm.
Crowdfunding not so much, because you understand India even today does not have a framework
Mm.
where you can raise
Yeah.
funding against equity. It's all product based crowdfunding. So I think we are still far away from that particular aspect. But I think I'm sure if you look at the recent funding report, a lot of both domestic and international funds are keen on investing in Indian social enterprises. Suraj.
Okay. Thank you, Ravi. Pranav, how has your experience been? If you talk about the
Um,
crowdfunding.
I actually just adding on to what Ravi was also saying. In India, crowdfunding is charity. It's not product driven. It's not innovation driven.
Yeah.
It's XYZ is not well or needs a certain amount of
Mm.
resources for support. That for me is a huge distinction in how companies in India look to leverage the consumer. I'm a huge proponent of crowdfunding for products. I mean, just as
Mm.
a consumer of different. When you talk of social impact, buying from like Ravi said, buying off of or from micro entrepreneurs from different parts of India or different parts of the world, I think is
Yeah.
one way of delivering impact as an investor, not just as putting money from a equity point of view, but actually consuming products that come through from there. So if I take a step back and I look
Yeah.
at India as or Asia in general, I think crowdfunding is looked at as charity, and that's something that sort of needs to change. Simultaneously, I think it's extremely
Okay.
important to understand what value you're trying to create. And I'll give you a couple of examples of our own portfolio companies. We have a company that started out as a college project where they were basically working in a district in Maharashtra called Parbhani. And they were doing a field study for water capabilities and testing just within certain local Zilla Parishads. Today, I would say about 4.5 years later, they've
Yeah.
raised a large volume of money, growing sustainably, marquee clients, 30 plus member team, very, very solid. And like you said, grounded founders. Because for them, fundamentally, the value being
Mm.
created is by delivering the value to the end consumer. Now, that end consumer could be the investor, it could be the person on ground in the village who's getting the benefit of the product, or a different stakeholder of the ecosystem, right? So one is from that point of view in
Yeah.
bringing in the right kind of clients by delivering the right kind of value. But then we take another example. We had a company called Piltover, where they were basically building mechanical prosthetics, which was below elbow mechanical prosthetics, right? Their goal is to build a bionic arm to be able to deliver it at commercial scale. But their first product was
Yeah.
building a simple mechanic, 3D printed mechanical hand below the elbow, where the current incumbent best product from a functionality point of view, the Alimco, is about 25,000 rupees per arm, right? These guys were trying to bring it in something at less than half the cost
Mm.
through innovative design methods, through innovative testing. And how did they go about potentially trying to leverage the funding? It's not by raising large volumes of equity capital. It's by actually going to the market, finding 500 people who actually need that
Mm.
hand, going to an NGO and saying, look, I have 500 people who need this hand. I can't afford to give it to them. Can you, as a Rotary, can you, as a larger NGO, can you, as somebody, help us in raise this mandate? Going to different organizations and leveraging CSR funds. I think that for me is a more valuable way at the outset for impact founders to look at funds, because it's not about impact funds alone. It's about how everybody who's investing can make an impact
Yeah.
with their fund, right? As a consumer, as an investor, however it may be.
Truly. Hmm. I think Pranav, you have made a great point, and this is also a learning for all of us in the ecosystem that your product and your idea, when it is driving the funding, you always have to look for the external funds. So I think great point made, and we all have to learn something from this. Young, what's your take on this? How do you see the scenario in Southeast Asia region?
Definitely. So I'm aware that not only impact funds invest in social entrepreneurship, but sovereign wealth funds invest in social entrepreneurship as well in indirect ways. So most of the time,
Yes.
if in the West, cannabis and other controversial products are being legalized, and governments will not touch these products or even large venture
Yeah.
funds. However, sovereign wealth
Mm.
funds will typically invest in a product that even it might be loss making, but a large population is using it, is beneficial for the entire country. The government would choose to invest in it to become a strategic partner. Think of Gojek, all these ride-hailing apps in Southeast Asia. They are loss-making in general, but
Yeah.
they provide so many jobs and create livelihoods for a large percentage of the population. So for sure, the government doesn't want it to fail, and the government will inject capital to be a strategic owner and partner to that kind of companies. Same right here in Singapore, whereby we have a company called Carousel, a second-hand e-commerce site that is generally loss-making, but many people are using it, and Singaporeans are using it to a to a large proportion of the time, and a lot of e-commerce is spent on that site. So even if it's loss-making, government agencies and government funds would still choose to invest in it if they perceive there's social value out of it. The tricky thing is they only invest in companies at a later stage whereby there's already traction and some form of rave reviews. But smaller companies will be ignored and they will not have the attention and the resource that they'll need. So government agencies and these sovereign wealth funds could partner with smaller outfits that could really track and scout for these small companies as they are just starting to bud.
Okay. As a social entrepreneur, like how do they prepare for funding? Like what are the key things that they should keep in mind while raising funds?
I'm happy to take that. Yeah, anybody, please.
Yeah,
Oyan,
if you
please
can.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Pranav. Go
Sure.
ahead.
Okay. Showcase. Sorry.
Yeah, if
Go
you.
ahead. Oyan, go
Oh,
ahead.
Pranav, go
My
ahead.
bad.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. So social and impact entrepreneurs can prepare for investor funding by showcasing their value proposition, not just the profitability, but the number of people that their product offering will reach, as well as the necessity this product is to society. For instance, in Singapore, that e-commerce site Carousel was very important because there was no site prior to that site, and we all know Singaporeans have a lot of material that they could be exchanged and passed on to neighbors without throwing and being a waste. In Indonesia, there's a lot of spare vehicles and spare time that retirees or people in general have. So if they could be utilized to facilitate rights, there'll be an effective use of a resource that's a part of Indonesia. So the investor has to prepare his pitch deck in such a way to articulate the value that their product or service offering is to that particular community and that particular nation, because every country is different. So if the investor sees the value of that product and service to that particular community, specifically to the historical problem that this community has been facing, for sure the investor will get interested if it knows it will bring forward the livelihood and standard of living of that community within that region. So being cultural specific is very important.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
Pranav, I
I,
guess
I
you can
think
go ahead now.
Oyang articulated it brilliantly. I think the fundamental thing was showcasing your value proposition. Nothing matters more than the impact or the perceived impact you're looking to make or you have made. And I think one has to sort of shift the goalposts in what you're looking for and what could actually be bringing value. And which is why we often see a lot of companies in these categories tend to find their own ways to quantify their social impact, right? How do you quantify social impact? What is social impact, right? It's about bringing the right metric, bringing and showcasing the right value that you are bringing to the different stakeholders that interact with your product or your service, and how you're going to continue to deliver that. I think that's the fundamental of it more than anything else.
Okay. I have one question, Pranav. So let's say when we say value, okay, we see how much value it is adding to the society or to all the stakeholders, like you mentioned. But then, what about the financials? Like, as an investor, how much are the financials important for you when you look at a a social idea which is at a ideation phase, and they haven't generated any
So
revenue?
we love that. I'll be very honest. As Thinkubate and as an individual, we love that. A lot of the investments that we tend to make, even in these sectors, tend to be at that stage, because we then have the ability to actually try and effect change alongside them, rather than sort of come in post facto. So the idea for us and our sort of underlying approach is find them early,
Yeah.
so that you can hopefully try and be a part of the change, and not just sort of riding the wave of the change. Which is why a lot of the times we sort of try and take a 2 year or 3 year, 4 year forward thinking, and how we can deliver value simultaneously alongside any company or any founder we invest in. In fact, all of the companies or products or social impact companies that you would traditionally define that we've invested in, have all been at an ideation stage or maybe early prototype pre-revenue
Mm.
companies, because
Yeah.
that's where really the magic happens.
Mhm. Yeah, truly, truly. Ravi, what's your thought on that?
Me with the question once more. Sorry, Suraj. I mean, I heard the conversation, but what perspective
Yeah,
you
so
want me to
like
share?
as a social entrepreneur, okay, when they go for funding, okay, what are the key things
Hmm.
that they should
That's a
keep
very
in
good
mind while
question.
raising this
I'll
money?
share my honest feedback, and apologies to all social entrepreneurs in advance if you think I'm wrong, because I have spent now 11 years working with investment, startup investment. I was with an angel network, then with another angel network, then an international angel network, now with a fund. In between, I got a chance to work with an Austria based social impact fund. It was supported by GIZ from Austria. I helped them launch in India and Nepal. Now, at that point of time, we used to get a lot of applications from social impact entrepreneurs, and uh, I would pointed because most of them were a typical NGO format where the entire business model is donation based. You are always waiting for people to donate money so that you can go and work. My first input would be that as a social impact entrepreneur, you need to first work on your business model, your revenue model. Are you a for-profit social enterprise? I mean, there's no problem if you're not, if you're a pure play NGO. But then if you're a pure play NGO, then the chances of raising capital from a professional investor, be it a VC or an angel, goes down a lot, because you need to understand, no matter if it's a typical angel network or a fund which is focused on social impact, they cannot. um I mean, all of them are looking to get their return on investment. They are not doing charity. That's the first thing which you need to understand, that the investors, if they're putting money from their limited partners, if they're raising capital and then giving it to you, you need to return that money. So you need to have a very clear strategy on what is your business model, how would you be able to make money, become profitable, and pass on that, that opportunity to your investor so that they can have an exit. That's the first thing which you need to understand if you're raising money from a professional investor. I mean, if you're an NGO, no problem. You can go ahead and build a model, no challenge in that. Number one. Number two, you need to understand your target audience. Are you trying to work, in a particular segment within India? Is the market size big enough for you to rather build that company? So, for example, I'm currently working with a French organization. They are going to do a impact study on how the mining of mica is happening in Bihar and Jharkhand. I don't know if you guys are aware. Bihar and Jharkhand has one of the largest mica mines in the world. The challenge in these mines are that people who are working in these mines, they are not treated well, both in terms of financial rewards as well as their safety and security. So there is an organization which has expertise on doing these evaluation. Now, I would call this company a very interesting for-profit social enterprise, where on one side they are going and making sure that these people get the basic human rights which they are eligible for. On the other side, they charge money, to large multinational companies, so that these multinational companies can further go and say that, okay, listen, we are doing good work, and this impact study shows that. Just giving an example there. So these are two very basic and fundamental points which both Ayong and Pranav has covered. You need to make sure, if you're a for-profit social enterprise, you have a very clear investment strategy and exit strategy, and also you need to work on your market size and your target audience. My quick thoughts on that, Suraj. Looks like we lost your audio, Suraj. We still can't hear you. You might want to remove your earphone. No, no, we can't. I think there's some issues. I can't hear Pranav as well.
apologize.
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't realize that.
Oh, okay, no issue.
But you can hear me,
Yeah,
right?
we
For
can
Yes,
hear
yes.
sure.
you.
Definitely.
Just Suraj, we can't hear you. It's all right, Suraj. Till the time you join in, I think we can just take one more perspective. Pranav, this question is from my end.
Right.
Let's say I'm a social enterprise, and I'm trying to scale to a new geography. Let's say I'm based out of India, but now I'm trying to go to Indonesia or Malaysia. How do I do that move? Should I partner with an organization which is based out of that country, or should I just do my own market study? Maybe you can share your thoughts, and then we can hear from Ayong as well.
Yeah, I actually am a huge proponent of people finding the right partners in different locations, in different geographies. And I say the same to companies that are looking to, for example, that we work with that are looking to enter India. I think understanding local context is extremely important. So either you take the time to actually understand the context of the region you're looking to enter, whether that means spending 6 months, 8 months within a particular geography trying to get that, or
Hello,
simultaneously finding somebody that allows you
hello,
to. Hi, Suraj. Suraj, we can hear you now. Huh?
hello.
Suraj, we can hear you.
And
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, just generally, I feel like it's extremely important to be able to find context, because I feel with most social impact opportunities or products, how you drive the narrative of the value you're trying to bring is extremely important. To be able to drive the narrative within any ecosystem or any geography or geographical location, you need to find context. Context, like I said, either comes through spending time and understanding and studying the market, and then sort of going and deploying, versus finding someone who has an underlying ethos that marries yours, and allows you to grow a lot more organically within other territories. Because if the focus is on creating impact through delivering value, um, those, in our opinion, are perhaps the only two ways to really go about it.
no, appreciate that. Oyong, your thoughts on that, and also if you can just add a little perspective. I'm a big fan of Gojek model in Indonesia. Do you see if a model like Gojek need to be built in India? I'm sure India with a 1.4 billion population has a huge opportunity, but I don't see any Gojek in India. Why do you think? What are the missing pieces? And maybe if you can share some anecdotes for our entrepreneurs who are joining in today.
Wow, that's a good one. So, I think India, the people in India prefer private cars, right?
We have, I mean, Uber has the second biggest market in Kolkata, India, after New York. Say ride sharing is a pretty big thing in India.
Okay, okay. I think it's the complexities of the cities. The cities are arranged um, more complex. The maps are more
Yeah,
complex.
I mean, in India, the usual address is the name of the person and in front of the sweet shop. That's how the couriers are delivered in India. I mean, big cities now have pin codes and proper. I would say 90% Indian addresses are not well defined the way you see in
In
Western
fact,
countries.
Ravi, if you sorry, I'm jumping in, Ravi, but if you look at, there's a company called Annexi.
Okay.
Annexi is actually working on building last mile postcodes. The idea being that in India, one of the biggest challenges that exist is the way our entire postal system and postcode system divides and categorizes regions and territories. And I think Annexi is actually doing an interesting job in trying to create, well, a new layer perhaps of authority or authorization of verification across tier 3, tier 4, and rural India. So I think there are interesting solutions that are coming through, but I don't know if India is a country of a super app, because we're a very fickle consumer base, and
Exactly.
things change very quickly. So super app
That is.
status in India, I think, is perhaps a little bit of time away. No company, and I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I don't think there is any single company in India that you could say has undying brand loyalty.
Hmm.
I don't think that exists. I could be wrong. Maybe that's me, but I don't think that exists.
Sure. Thanks. Moving to you, Oyong. My first question. Let's say if an Indian social impact startup is trying to expand to Southeast Asia. What are the best ways? Because one of the challenges is language. I have spent a great amount of time, in Southeast Asia, traveling to both cities and rural areas. Language becomes a very, very difficult part, and sometimes I felt that people are rude to me, but actually they are not rude. They are not comfortable speaking to me, and that's why there's a challenge. As a business, how do I overcome this challenge, and how do I expand to these regions? You are the expert. Look forward to hear.
Very good. So in these kind of situations, you really need to find somebody you can trust. So in those areas, you can be cheated, or you can there's subtle corruption. I mean, in that context. So if you do not know all these nuances, it's very easy to get cheated, and your plans will not go to fruition. So the best way for you is to organize a conference, like a regional conference, an Asia conference, back home in your country, and invite leading experts all over Southeast Asia who might be interested in your principles, your values, and mission and purpose to come over, have a dialogue, get to know you, and if there's a good fit and there's chemistry, then those guys will be potential partners.
That I think Suraj is still trying to join in, so we have some time. We can go ahead and take some questions as well. To all the participants, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box, and we can take that question. And we get the questions, we can have a little discussion around what is the current scenario. Post COVID, the world is changing in a very different way, and this is not a good time for people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, people who are vulnerable, both in terms of a regular financial income coming in, healthcare, and education. Pranav, what are some ideas you think as a social entrepreneur can build in this new normal, which is not very normal, which is very unfortunate, but again, we have to survive and we have to fight as an entrepreneur. We need to find solutions. What are your thoughts on that, Pranav?
Patience. Single word. Patience. Nothing happens overnight. One of the biggest elements I feel like everyone has to, whether it be a founder, whether it be an investor, anyone and everyone has to remember. A situation we're facing is unprecedented, not just in our generation, but perhaps in our parents and their parents' generation, right? So I don't think there is a right or a wrong. Anybody who's proponing that this is the way, or you should have achieved this through the pandemic, or you should be able to do this through the pandemic, I think all of those opinions are moot. That's, again, me. I don't necessarily buy into that entire narrative. What I think is extremely important is finding the markers that drive why you were building what you were building in the first place. I think what has happened over the last 3 or 4 years is, especially in India, there is a layer of, I wouldn't, maybe pretense is the too harsh a word, but a relative layer of pretense that exists over social entrepreneurship, right? Where it's about championing social entrepreneurs rather than championing the work that the social entrepreneurs are doing. So I think it's important at times like this to actually take a step back, to strip back all of the layers of the onion, and see why you built what you built in the first place, and how far you've displaced yourself from a value point of view since you started. So, any advice to any entrepreneur in this particular category that's struggling through the pandemic? Have patience, build a thesis, take a step back and see why you started and why you're doing what you're doing, and then go hell for leather.
Sure, thanks. Appreciate that, Pranav. Oyong, your thoughts on that? My one, I would like to kind of add one more perspective very quickly here. If you look at Southeast Asia, travel and tourism is a very, very big contributor to the economy, and I think it's going to take a while, at least one more year before things go back to normal. Just keeping that in mind, how do we create models around people who are impacted by this pandemic, and they have been impacted economically really, really bad? Your thoughts?
Okay. They could engage in training. So this is the best time to invest in the training of employees. So there could be partnerships with governments and other institutions whereby the workers at these travel companies could undergo more retraining to pick up new skill sets. So when the market opens up again, they'll be well equipped to not just do their own role, but multitask or even take take more jobs and more responsibilities, so they'll be in a better position, and the company will be well versed to not only just take part in travel related business, but they could think of launching out into other verticals and other
Wonderful.
products.
Really appreciate that. To conclude this, before Anupam comes in and conclude the session, I would like to share my personal perspective. I mean, in March 2020, I was traveling for work. I was in South India in Pondicherry. That's when the things started going really bad. I was noticing the pandemic from as early as December 2019, and I figured out that something is going to be bad. But then when I moved to my hometown, which is in Jharkhand, India, this was after 16 years that I got a chance to spend time with my parents and my family. But also over the last 9 to 10 months, I have personally been able to witness the real challenge at the grassroots, because the village where I am from, it's one of the most backward district in India and one of the most poor village in that particular state. The challenges which I saw, even I'm seeing every single day, one of access to basic healthcare and basic education. Even in 2020, when things are so advanced, there are so many challenges, and unfortunately, technology and startups are not able to reach to these places. There are so many places in India, places in Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, places in Southeast Asia, in Cambodia. I was there and I saw challenges where people don't have access to basic technology. My my personal request would be to all the entrepreneurs who are part of this interesting event: when you're building a solution, try and include people at the grassroots level in these remote part of the countries, because I understand you're building your company, you're based out of Bangalore, Mumbai, or Bangkok, or Kuala Lumpur, but you cannot, kind of ignore the fact that the real people who are looking for your support are at the bottom of the pyramid. So you need to go there, speak to them, understand the challenges which you can solve. And I'm sure if you are able to solve problems for people at the grassroots level, you have an opportunity to build a very, very large company. There are so many agri-tech companies which are example there. Companies like Grab and Gojek are example. And I'm sure you'll see some very interesting companies coming in from this event as well. So with that, I would like to, kind of rest here. Thanks a lot to Oyong, Pranav for joining in, and Anupam, over to you.
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much. And this was an amazing talk, actually. Wonderful talk it was. So, in the interest of time, we can close this panel discussion and move to the fifth session. Thank you, Mr. Pranav. Thank you, Mr. Eong and Mr. Ravi, for this amazing discussion. And thanks, Mr. Suraj, for moderating it so well. And yes, thank you, especially Mr. Ravi Ranjan, that you took it over. So, yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining
Thanks,
in.
guys. Thanks for having us.
Great, great. Yeah, bye bye.
Bye bye.